Hello and welcome to nobody's actually watching right now because we kept having some technical difficulties. But Sean, we were like half an hour late. I was a mess with this computer. We were watching the World Cup draw, which I believe started a week and a half ago and just finished. Any response on the World Cup draw?
I think that there were definitely some favorable groups for teams. I think people are really happy about USA's group. I think it's okay. I think it was like a medium outcome result. The UEFA playoff to me is like the one spot you wanted to avoid in the whole tournament because like if Wales had played that game beforehand and Wales won, you're looking at like that would have been a pot 2 team that you just get jumped in at pot 4. So I think that's really detrimental. But like I'm glad drawing England. You're gonna be expected to lose the England game, and they like to show up and just completely shit the bed. And then also Southgate just plays a style that's very conducive to not really doing much. And that should fit pretty well against the USA, where like we have been pretty good defensively recently and we'll probably just park the bus in that game. So like us getting a result there is actually
Possible.
a reasonable outcome. So I think that was good. What's your thoughts on the results? I definitely think there was like 2 or 3 groups where teams got really favorable spots.
There were definitely places we could have gone that would have been worse. So I'll like put it that way. So we didn't get like the worst case scenario. Amazingly, we didn't get Ghana. Like we were all like, we're definitely getting Ghana, with all that history. But I mean, it's not for another, what are we, 4 months in, 8 months, 7 months, I guess. So who knows what can happen until then. But, it's not going to be 7 months of dread going into like a group of death or anything. Like it's fine. That was kind of my response.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm not like upset about it. Like we have winnable games. Every game is at least winnable. Like we're not going to likely get pounded by a Brazil would have probably done, or like some of those teams with a lot of flair. Because like the thing that will give us a lot of problems is a team with a lot of flair and a lot of ability to like just do some ridiculous stuff. And England, that's just
it ain't England. Yeah,
England is not built like that. England's gonna play an out of form like Raheem Sterling because he has like nudes on Southgate or something. And they're just going to sit there in bus park for 90 minutes, which they'll probably win the game because they're the better team. But I just really don't care. And if they do end up with a nice little bed shitting, then that will just be great. We don't play realistically. We come in the first games against Iran, so I think you have to realistically get a win here. Like you have to be able to pull out a win in the Iran game, but overall it's pretty good. There's some teams that are a bit more challenging than others, and then I think Netherlands got a good draw. I think Portugal got a really good draw. I mean, realistically, England got a decent draw. So there's definitely some positive things for some teams out there.
I imagine most people in England were happy to draw the U.S. Like in terms of all the ones that they could have drawn, and so.
Well, see, the thing is too is I think England will be like very nervous about playing.
I mean, they're the very clear favorite of that group.
Yeah, like they're clear favorite, but like I think, for example, I think England would have much rather pulled like Uruguay or Mexico than us. I don't think they would have rather pulled like the Netherlands than us, but
sure,
I think they will be very scared of playing the USA.
All right, cool.
Yeah, nervous. Scared is the wrong word. Nervous, which is fine because like you're likely going into that game. There's the dogs. The dogs are ready. They know we're live. They decided they had to come out and showcase themselves for the show,
Larry. Yeah, we are doing this a little later and on a different stream. I don't even know if I dropped the link into the other chat or whatever, but yeah, we're talking now. We were going to do a gallery review, but we are going to push that because of my own technical issues. So we'll push that to next week. But we have the Jude Bellingham auction going on right now. It is currently at, actually, let me make that better, 23.5 from Bellingham, who everybody may remember from the Messi auction that went for basically doubled it and a little more than double. Oh no, triple, excuse me. So Sean, where do you think this one ends up?
I think it goes for like 100, which I think you agree with. I think it goes over what Messi did. It probably goes in that like range of like 100. I think if it wasn't like a dead market right now, this would have probably been higher than that. But I think it goes for around 100. I mean, looking at him, I think he's a really good fit for how the platform is. His age is good. His nationality is good. So I think there's a pretty good chance that he goes for like, I mean, if we saw like some of these other guys, the young players like Fatty, go for like 80 to 90. Like, there's no reason Bellingham shouldn't do it. Who's already showing that he can perform at that level, and put up scores that are like usable from an SO5 perspective.
And at this age, like he's basically the same age. Maybe he's a year older.
Yeah, I think he's a year older, but like same bracket, like that you
Right.
talked about for sure.
Right. Not 22. Like he's
Exactly. Yeah, like he's got a lot of time left in the
Mhm.
U23 age range, and then all of a sudden, like, I mean, looking at the U23, I was looking at the U23 mids the other day, and I think you can make a realistic case that he is the best U23 mid to have, because his scoring is good. It's not like he doesn't put up an 80, like an 80 L40 or anything, but he puts up like a 60 L40. But the difference is between all these other guys that like you look around him. So like you look around him, the people that are above him. So these are all the people that are listed above him from an L40 perspective. Sangare ages out, and Kunku ages out. Wendell ages out. Szymanski doesn't, but he's in Russia and is transferring in the summer, is what the new rumors are.
Yep.
Kaku, we don't know what's going to happen with Kaku. Bierman is a good option. I like Bierman. Barco, I don't really know what to think of Barco with the current role. Ao Tanaka. Those are the only people up. So all those guys like sort of have issues, but also not even to mention, he's the only one in that list outside of Nkunku that's playing at a high-end level as it is right now.
Yeah.
And like you look through the list and it's like Nkunku's aging 24. Bellingham's 18. Bellingham has a lot more room to run with, and he just, his birthday is actually, how funny is this? People will be pissed about this at some point in the future.
June 30th or something?
June 28th. So
terrible.
Terrible birthday. That's not the birthday you want. But yeah, I mean, he's already producing this at 18, and he's someone that like he's 10th in L40 playing for a top end team that his style realistically should be pretty favorable. So I think it's a great card. I think it's definitely one of the better options that there is.
Yeah. Have we talked about this? I don't know if we talked about it here or not. Of just like who the available. I think we have, because it was about Gravenberch, just in terms of like the number of playable U23 midfielders next year. Like the elite ones, the ones that you just went through, so many of them are aging out. So it's like the biggest, like we were saying, the biggest issue with someone like Kokchu was that if he goes to like a big club and becomes like a rotational piece, kind of like what we saw with Coop Miners last year, like it obviously kills him. And that's why I'm like so big on Joey Veerman, because like he just made his move to a bigger club, but it's still a big club. You know, it's a bigger challenger club, and theoretically he's not going to be moving already this summer. So
yeah, I think if you just told me, hey Sean, you get 1 year usage out of the card, you don't resell it or anything, it's just 1 year usage out of that card for U23. I think I'm taking Veerman right now. I don't think it's that close.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, yeah, looking through things, I just don't think it's that close. I think you take Veerman right now. He's the most like locked in, stable guy that I see that could be there. So like, yeah, I think that's the clear guy. But yeah, I mean, for me, Bellingham, if I'm getting one of these guys, like if you gave me one of these guys, super rares, and you're like, just use them for as long as you can, and you're not selling them, you're just like using them for a while, and you can eventually sell it. I'm probably taking Bellingham over everyone else by quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on that one. So this is kind of a flop conversation as we go from the Jude Bellingham unique because we still have about 17 minutes left before it ends, and 16 minutes before the action actually starts because of everybody who likes to wait. But the introduction of the specialist and underdog leagues this week, we were talking about it previously in terms of like whether you were going to play or not. You're not obviously a big limited player. You do have limited cards, and you were like, I don't know if I'm going to enter. I see a limited lineup on your lineup screen this week, but it is not in specialist or underdog. So what the hell?
No, I wasn't going to deal with that. It wasn't worth it for me to do that. I had a Cruyff limited, and the Beckenbauer and Platinis were super cheap. So I just decided that it made sense to go get them for right now. And I was going to need a goalie anyways. So basically it was like, I had a Hote, and Van Kronbruge is relatively cheap. So I was just like, perfect. I can just plop in the two of those guys. And then I had I don't even remember. I had Noah Lang, who, I mean, obviously fantastic matchup. And then I don't even know who's in my line. That's how little I care about the line. I think and then I bought Big Bob Scoops because he was like 0.03 and just figured I might as well just throw it in global and probably win some sort of card and call it a day. But I'm not going to say I'm going to stay out of the new sort of specials and the stuff coming up, but I'm not going to like go out of my like the under 40s. I'm not going to deal with that probably. I will, however, possibly deal with the specialist one where you need one U40 and then everyone else above that. So, like, hypothetically speaking, I can run, as of now, Van Kronbruch, Hout, someone. I would probably buy, hypothetically, if I decide to do this and take it seriously, I'd probably buy Gil. And then I would figure out someone that's a L15 under 40 and I go from there. But I'm not going to go overboard with it. It's just not something that I'm going to worry about that much right now. Maybe in the future I will. I think it's a great thing that they added. I think it's really good. But yeah, so I did add a limited lineup so that I at least have some ability to run some limited cards because I figured why not.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm playing both. I have enough limited cards and like I want to play, so like I'm going to do it. And I started kind of researching around and looking at what cards I would need to buy for the underdog. And I was like, I don't want to own any of these cards.
No,
Like,
exactly.
I'm not going to get out of it. And I had a few that qualified, but I was still going to have to buy, you know what? I was going to have to buy a goalie.
Yeah.
And we talk about all the time about like the pain of buying a goalie. And I was like, obviously the cost of a underdog qualifying limited goalkeeper is low, but it's like worse when it's like the price has doubled since his last start and like only because of his qualification. Like obviously the utility, skyrockets because he qualifies. Whoever there were a few I was looking at, so I was like, all right, let me focus on the specialist because I only need 2 under 40 there, and you can only have 1 over 60. And I'm like, this seems more realistic. I have like I bought some limiteds early, some like elite limiteds early for All-Star, and I was like, maybe I'll just play them in this because I can win rares. And so I was like, and then I'll play the rest in underdog. So I built my specialist lineup, and I never avoided having to buy a goalkeeper for underdog. Like if you want to play, you need one. And I had 2 guys that like technically qualified, but they don't start. And I'm like, so now I'm buying like garbage players to put them with a goalie that's not going to start. I'm like, I obviously have to buy a starting goalie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
No.
Like the underdog, it would be different, I think, if I had 4 outfield players that I thought were good. They just happened to qualify for the under 40. And it was like, I'm only buying 1 player and it's a goalie. But like, I was going to have to buy like multiple players I didn't want.
We talked about it in one of our channels. To me, the specialist is just such a better tournament. It's such a better tournament.
It absolutely is.
And even if they raise the underdog, it's still so much better.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And the thing that I liked about specialist was it looked like not everybody is going to have the same under 40 players, but you know who the popular ones are going to be because they show up. You know that whoever shows up on like the first line of the SorareData filter of under 40, best L5, L15, maybe best L5 within that. They happen to have an L15 of 39, but their L5 is 55. And you're like, all right, like those guys are going to be popular. And we went to the impact players today and I was like, yep, those are the guys that I wanted, but like that everybody would have wanted. So it's really like the other guys that you put in your lineups that will they be good enough for cards? Obviously this is the first week, so we have no idea.
Yeah.
But it was just like that felt so much more reasonable to enter based on like what I needed myself. And like I have a decent number of limited cards. Like
yeah, you do. You have a good number of them.
I have too many limited cards, partially because some of them I have 78. I guess that's not that many. It's not like Jay Fraz who's like over 1,000 at this point. But like I was willing to like, I think I bought 1 player for the specialist. I think I bought 1. And what I actually did was I bought 2 or 3 for the underdog. because I was like, I'm going to do this and I'll just get my goalie last. And then I got to the point where I was like, I actually don't want to do this, and was still able to like sell them for a profit. Like I made, and when I say profit, I mean like I might have made like 78 cents on one of them
Sure.
and like $1.50 on the other. But I was like, you know what? I'm out.
Yep.
I got more than than what I came for. But like there is a tremendous trading opportunity thanks to these contests. Like it was very clear that the liquidity on some of these guys was nuts. And so if like, even if you didn't want to play at all, like you could buy these guys early in the week, because as the week goes on, like more people think about it and they're going to go after those players, and the margins are small, but like they're there if you want to do the work.
No, I agree that there's definitely trading opportunities within it. And we saw it with the U40 where they gave away uniques a while ago in the limited variety, where like people were really overpaying for the, like I remember Sebastian Coates was cheap because he had been terrible and had a red card or something. So it like just torpedoed his scores over an L5. L15 is going to remove that to some extent. Like you're not going to have those type of players with good enough L15s. I also don't think they can keep it L40 because, or L15 with a U40, because it's really hard for goalies to have a U40. So if they don't up it to 45, I don't see how it's realistic, because even the worst of the worst goalies are generally going to be above 45. Or not above 45. I'm sorry, above 40. Yeah, like their L15 is going to be above 40 almost every time, even if they're some of the worst goaltenders. Because like realistically, the only guys that would be eligible are people that hoof the ball long and give up 3 goals a game, which is on a realistically reasonable amount of the games they play, which is, it's just really difficult. So yeah, to me, the specialist is such a better product because you can only play one card that's effectively a cheat code card.
One cheat code. Yeah,
one cheat code. You have to play one card below 40, right? Two. So you have to play 2 cards below 40. So you can, so it's a really good strategical game where it's not, you're just playing complete dumpsters either. You're playing, you're allowed to play like a cheat code, and then you're allowed to find some other people, because most everyone falls between the, like, let's say 40 to 60 range. Like there are very few people above 60. Really. So you can play like 3 really good players if you have some guys that make sense. So I think that's more of an interesting situation, because hypothetically, like, let's say I don't know what Noah Lang's L15 is, but it's not good. But like, so it's probably Noah Lang's L15 is like 48, right? Pretend Lang, he started today, and I'm sure he's just gonna smack beer shitters because they're terrible. But like, so we're at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at like 10 games. Over the last 10, Lang's L15 is under 40.
Yeah.
So like hypothetically, like let's say he stayed in that sub role for another couple games, and then Adamian got injured. Because the issue was Adamian was getting his time, not
and crushed.
Lang. All of a sudden, like Lang's at like 35 L15, and all of a sudden you're like, no, Lang's gonna start against Beer Shot. And you're like, man, I really want these cards because this is a great week to be able to put this out there, because I have a legit shot at putting stuff out. That's why I bought the limiteds for the legend stuff, because one, I think people are going to be really stupid when it comes to legends. Like it's min 1, max 3. What that means is you play 3. If you play 1, you lose. So, but the problem is people are going to play 1. They're going to get their 1 limited legend, and they're going to be like, all right, I can compete. But you can't. You're not going to compete with 1 legend when everyone else is playing 3. Not everyone, but like a chunk of the people are going to be playing 3, because it's realistically the only way you can realistically expect to win. And then you just play 2 other like cheat code cards. So like, I think that so like I had a Cruyff, right? So Cruyff is on Ajax. So literally every single weekend, I would have the best Ajax forward in the Legends tournament when they play it. I mean, the odds of me not getting a really high score out of Anthony, Berghuis, Haller, and Tadic is like absurdly low.
A bit low, yeah.
Yeah, and then I got Beckenbauer, I think, and he's on his like team affiliations Bayern. If Bayern has it, doesn't, you don't have to pick what defender you want. You just get the best score. The odds I don't get a good score out of a Bayern defender are significantly low. So I was just like, all right, I can just buy these 2, figure out the third as we go. I bought Platini because he's the only midfielder. So if you buy Platini, you can literally play the best other player, period, which I think is valuable. But Platini might not be the best option. It might be to go get like Ronaldo with the PSV forward, or there was a couple other ones that had like realistic options. There were some that were pretty terrible. Like, I don't think Platini's that good from a
but we don't even know what that situation is.
Like Juve mids are not good unless they count Quadrado, and then if they count Quadrado, it could be okay. But like the odds like you get a midfielder that nicks a score point at least is reasonable. But like so realistically, I think, and then I think there's some viability to get like Iker Casillas because goalie sucks, and like you'd rather have your cheat code cards, other cards. So like if you have a Casillas, and you have so effectively Casillas is basically Courtois. So like you basically have Casillas and then let's say Beckenbauer and Cruyff. So all of a sudden, like if Madrid gets a clean sheet, you're probably getting like a massive score from Cruyff. You're probably getting a massive score from Beckenbauer. You probably have a great score from Casillas. And then like you could play like hypothetically speaking, Gil and
Timber.
Cruz, right? Or something like that. So like all of a sudden you're just playing like 5 just absolute smackers. So I do think there's some validity in having like Iker Casillas, but I don't think it's necessarily the best option either.
Yeah. I'm in a whole like I'm just going to see what happens when like I'm not going to go out of my way to play those things probably. And I wonder how many like I assume those tournaments are just like the specialist one where there's no power. Like I wonder if we'll see a lot of duplication. Obviously there's so many cards on the platform for like the other spots. So we're not going to see a lot of it, but it'll be interesting to see like the first entered tiebreaker rule that they have come into effect. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So Red Panda just asked, like, what's your thoughts on buying Van Basten and buying Shevchenko? I mean, it's okay. The problem is they're just not that good because
the AC Milan. Yeah, you don't want them.
Forwards aren't that good. So like, let's say Giroud starts and scores 65, and that's what you get. Like, that's not going to cut it in this tournament. Like, I'm getting Cruyff, so I'm getting 4 Ajax forwards to beat you. And Milan forwards, who are the Milan forwards right now that like realistically play? Like Leao, Giroud, Brahim Diaz.
Is Ibrahimovic even fit?
He does. No, I mean, he probably not. So like I realistically like let me look at them. So like Giroud over his last so Giroud's cap on the ceiling is 80. That's the most Giroud has hit. He's hit it like once. Rafael Leao has hit. Let's see what he's hit. He's a forward card, so he's cracked 80 twice. He has an 86 and an 88. Let me see what Milan's usual starting lineup is because I just don't know who counts as a forward from Milan. Like I think like Salamakers isn't a forward when he plays there. So let me see the forwards using the new SorareData stuff. Although it's bugged out here on that from Milan. I don't know why it's not letting me click on Milan. There we go. All right, so formations. Like last game they played Messias. I don't know if you get credit for him because it doesn't have a license card, but I would think you get credit for Messias. So like you have Messias, Brahim Diaz, Leao, and Giroud. Giroud got an assist. He got 63. They were all like terrible. Let me see the game.
It's just not like if you just have to think of it fundamentally. Would you rather players if you're just looking for the highest score? Do you want players from Ajax or do you want players from AC Milan?
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly. And like nothing else matters. So like looking through this, the last 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. All right, so the last 6 games, no one's cracked 71 for Milan. So that's just not going to cut it. When like if I look at Ajax, I'm sure like a forward has cracked 71 every game because that's just what they do.
That's what they do.
Di Stefano was one that I looked at, and I think he definitely makes sense because you're getting the Real Madrid forwards, and that's obviously better. But again, like clearly worse than Cruyff is the Real Madrid forwards because you're getting less options realistically. Like you're looking at like you're getting Vinicius and Benzema, and that's like it. You're not getting a 4 where like I actually getting 4. So like Di Stefano's solid, but I don't think he's as good. I think you realistically want. I also think you realistically want the defenders because as long as you have a defender and they have a favorable matchup, one of the defenders is probably gonna have a really solid game.
Probably.
Did you buy? You said you haven't bought any limiteds.
I had Cruyff from months ago. That's all.
Yeah, that's what I just had. If I didn't have a Cruyff, I don't think I would do it. But I had a Cruyff, and I knew immediately Cruyff was the best one when I saw what they were doing with it. So I was like, all right, I was gonna say we haven't had another
I was
bid
going to say,
on.
yeah, we're now under 2 minutes on
Bellingham.
Bellingham. Fantasy Tellers decided to not only bid 25.85 ETH, but also sell his gallery for 700. So if anybody wants to, wonder if do you think the price goes up if he gets this card?
Probably. If anyone wants to buy my gallery at 700, it's available. So
Mine's available for 650, so it's an easy way to get in.
Yeah, and you can also with that you have cards that were owned by Andrew Laird,
including that Cruyff Limited. Who knows what you could do with that?
Exactly. So I think that's a no-brainer purchase. There's Bambi.
There's Bambi.
I don't think Bambi would be a player here, but I mean, if it stays around this price, he definitely would be.
Well, sure, yeah. So 28. Well, Fantasy Tellers had enough of that, so we're at a 31.
What's the floor? The floor on this has to be like 60, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. So when you have three people fighting, and we still haven't seen, a bottle or anyone from Blackpool or
Blackpool hasn't been a player in anything recently.
Max bid on Messi, bid like 40 ETH for Messi.
Yeah, he bid on Kimmich too, but it was like none of the bids that he put out there were like legitimate bids.
Yeah.
They were just like I threw it out there.
I always thought that Mark, You Never Walk Alone would be all in on this card.
I would have thought so, but I think that someone mentioned the other day that Axie had that big issue, and that would be a really big detrimental.
It'd be really bad for Blackpool. Yeah.
Like maybe this was just an awful timing for Blackpool where they just don't have the ability to put together the funds needed for this card.
Yeah, absolutely possible. Team Bambi up to 37.84, 130, just under 130,000.
I think Bellingham would win this if it's if it's not an unreasonable price. I would think Bellingham wins this because he obviously likes the Bundesliga and likes those cards, and this is just one of the better cards there. So I would think Bellingham would.
It depends on ETH left over from the Messi transaction. So
true. Maybe he's in a situation where he doesn't have a lot of ETH available. If this goes for like 37, I'm like blown away.
If he had 100 ETH, then 70 plus that 34 is out.
Yeah.
We're at 5 seconds here. Wow. There's Mark. There we go.
There we go.
So 41.6 to You Never Walk Alone. That, I hate to say it, that almost feels like this is too low, I have to bid.
Yeah. Again, if I had 4 ETH available to me, I would have bid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't. If I did, I would have.
I mean, we both obviously thought that this should be at least double.
And it still can get there. Like we have 4 people that are in this.
Yep.
To some extent. That did get really low though, so I don't know if it might just be Mark and Bambi at the moment. I don't know what has happened to Roxy. Roxy's been all over stuff for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, Roxy's just nowhere to be seen on. Like, this is an exact card you would expect Roxy to go.
You would think so. You would think so.
That's quite surprising to me that Roxy's not around for that.
Yeah, I think I'm just surprised. I mean, obviously it's still going, so I don't want to say I'm surprised how slow it's moving, but I would have expected like the 50th bid to happen like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think that these people, Bambi and YNWA, think that they can get it
cheap
at this price because otherwise I think it would have went up faster. I think someone would have just plopped down a number.
Yeah, I think that's fair to think. So now
that's above a min bid, so I would expect that's Bambi's last.
That's like barely above a mid bid though.
Yeah, but even so, like that makes me think that's their max.
Yeah, $200,000.
Yeah, would make me think that's the max bid that Bambi's willing to put on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I guess my guess is that Mark's going to win this at this price.
Right, at 63.
I don't understand that max bid situation because to me, like, if you're, let's pretend you and I were bidding on this, right? And this was us, and you bid 57.5, and I'm Mark sitting there, and I just bid 50, and I want the card. I'm like, that's his last bid. I got to do for one more, and I'm getting this card. So I don't understand. Like a lot of people do it. I would never go above a min bid because I don't want you to know or think when I'm done. because you thinking you know that I'm done means that you're not bidding again, or that you think you can get it with one more bid, and you'll probably put that in there if you want the card.
Yeah, the max bid also seems like something you do to just end it, and that almost guarantees you're overpaying.
Yes, which that's why I never do. Yeah, this is exactly what I figured played out. Like that seemed like Bambi's max, and that I would assume
that seems like just a shocking price.
Yeah, it seems like such a low price.
But exactly who I thought would win it.
I mean, that's who you thought would win it. I don't know how much he would have went. Mark, if you're Mark's sometimes around. If you're around, I'm interested how much you would have went for this. If you don't mind telling, which you probably wouldn't say, but I 60 that price is really cheap to me.
Like just looking at the ones that have gone, like, yeah, basically, what is that, 10th? Yeah, 10th highest ever, single auction.
Yeah, like oh, there's Mark. Congrats.
Congratulations, Mark.
How if you don't mind telling us, how high were you going to go on this?
500.
No, because I'm curious. Like Laird thought you were going to win it. I thought you would win it if it made sense. Laird thought you were going to win it no matter what.
Like Bellingham less than Fati and Gavi. I would have gone 10. Mark said he would have gone 10% more than the last bid. Is that your last bid or anyone's last bid?
Yeah. Like if I told you had to like burn right now, Fati or Bellingham, which one would you burn? Like which one would you keep right now?
I mean,
I keep Bellingham. Like I don't.
Of course, nobody's taking Ansu Fati over.
Well, I think so. Red Panda said that they're allies. I don't think they're allies. I think it was just different markets.
That's fair.
If you had to burn one of Fati and Bellingham, which one would you burn? You get to keep the other one.
There you go. He said he would have gone 10% more than anyone's last bid.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good way to describe it, Mark.
I actually think, and maybe this is a strategy that other unique division players don't employ, but like Mark has been pretty public about it in different podcasts and whatnot, that if he can't get a card, he wants whoever is trying to get the card to pay as much as they have to, because then it weakens them for others. And this auction felt like one that nobody was willing to do that same strategy.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I agree with that strategy for what it's worth to some extent. I mean, I'm generally not gonna just come in and just jam someone who I'm friends with on a card they really want or something. But I mean, I understand people that do it. I just think there's some give and take in situations as well. But like, I totally, like, if you make someone pay like maybe he made Belma pay an extra 20 ETH on Messi. Like, obviously he wasn't involved. Like maybe that happened. So maybe that Belma went from being willing to spend 75 on Bellingham to 50, right? Mm-hmm. That just made it so that he was able to actually get this card and save 10, 15 ETH. So I totally buy into that and think that it's a viable strategy. I think that, I mean, to me, this is a great card. 63 seems, of all the ones that we've had so far, there was three that I thought were really cheap at the time. I thought Vinicius was really cheap at the time.
It was more than double this.
It was, but it also was like, at that time, everything was nuts. I thought Wirtz was too cheap at the time. But I guess the Wirtz, though, was partially, stuff was coming down. Wirtz was like, I would say the
Wirtz would be easy 100.
Yeah. And then this one, I think this one's the lowest of all of them.
Yeah. There are some people in chat who think that we're like disrespecting Ansu Fati because he's hurt. Like, we both think he's a very good player. That doesn't mean we think he's better than Jude Bellingham. That's all.
Jude Bellingham is putting up 60 points a game, not hurt for Dortmund. Fati has never proven it and is always hurt for Barcelona. I'll take the top end midfielder that's proving it at 18 years old than the 18-year-old forward that's not proven it on a consistent basis, that's literally consistently injured. I agree with that, Mark. I do think if Fati was fit and there was no injuries situations and he just was like what he could be and he was hitting his upside and his ceiling, I do agree he's a better card. I just think the risk on that card is tremendous, whereas the risk on Bellingham to me seems super low.
Yeah.
Like over all these cards, like if you look at like Wirtz, Gavi, Fati, Bellingham, to me, Bellingham has the least risk in him because Wirtz, his card was a forward we talked about. If he starts playing DM, that card's really not that favorable potentially. Fatty and Gavi have not fully proved with what I would say Bellingham's been doing from a consistency standpoint. And I don't think Bellingham can end up in a position where like he's going to be a bad card. He can produce from any of the midfield roles, I think. So Dizzy talked about is Bellingham a top scoring mid? We looked at it. He's a top 10 midfielder and a U23 perspective already, and he's 18. And after we age the people out that are aging out in 3 months' time, he's like third. He's like the third highest scoring U23 mid.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a Champ EU perspective, he's not as high. I don't think. Let me go look at Champ EU mid and see where he'd end up in that situation. But again, like we're talking about him, he is 18 years old. This guy is not like in the heart of his career. I also don't think he's been taking sets, but I do think he could take sets in the future, which, I mean, that's a pretty large improvement if he ends up taking sets eventually. Yeah. So like if I look at Champ Europe mids, he is around the top 10 in Champ Europe mids too. The only people ahead of him right now in L40 perspective are Hakan, Verratti, Fabian Ruiz, Bruno, Modric, and Kunku, De Bruyne, Parejo, Payet, Kroos, and Kimmich. So like you're talking like he's already at 18, a top 10 U23 mid, a top 10 Champ Europe mid. That probably hasn't reached his potential within the matrix.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit that I think we've spoken already, like he's at the top. Like, I don't think there's a move to like a bigger club that hurts him. Like he's likely going somewhere where he's going to play a ton, and it's probably only a better team anyway. No disrespect to Borussia Dortmund, of course.
Well, yeah, that's what Sam talked in the chat about, it being a low all-around player. He's only moving up to better teams, and he's already on a pretty good team. The better, like if he goes to Bayern, especially, or someone like that, like that card's, he basically turns into what? Better Goretzka there?
Sure, could be, yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking like 68 card.
At 19 years old.
Yeah, like I think he's a really, really strong card. Like Bruno has the same AA as him. Mm-hmm. Bruno's AA over the last L40, his AA is slightly worse than Bellingham. So, I mean, you're getting slightly worse AA than Bruno. You're literally getting an 8 to 9 year younger version of Bruno Fernandes that's doing exactly the same stuff that Bruno does right now without all the set pieces, without the penalty kicks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Pedri for 35 or Bellingham for 63? Yeah, I think having both is a good problem to have. I think I'd probably rather have Pedri at 35. I think the upside on Pedri is massive. And if I'm paying if I get to play the sort of the betting game and I get to take a much cheaper version on Pedri, I think I'd rather have Pedri. But like if Pedri went today, Pedri's going for probably more than what Bellingham did today. But yeah, so if I got Pedri at 35, I'd probably rather have that.
Yeah, that Pedri at 35 just looks like Pedri at 35 looks just as much of an outlier as Gavi at 90 or whatever.
Yeah, I would not rather have Pedri over Bellingham. I don't think I trust Bellingham a bit more, I think, than Pedri. And it just seems like Bellingham just plays more consistently. I think that it's close. It's close. I mean, I think both of them at like 60 is really good. Like I think that's a good price for sort of like, I don't see a downside at 63 with Bellingham. It is more so than here. Like I just find it very difficult.
Yeah, as long as he stays fit.
Exactly. He stays fit. You don't have injury problems. Like I just find it very difficult to say like this card's not worth 60 long term.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, mostly because you just look at the guys above him on this list and you're just like, oh, he's probably more reliable than all of them.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's fun. Like people clearly feel one way or the other on these guys. Like I feel like this chat is equally like, no, I'd rather have Pedri or no, I'd rather have Bellingham. And so,
yeah, I'd rather have both.
Mark doesn't have to decide.
The correct answer is I'd rather have both.
Yeah. Give me both, please.
Definitely.
I'll just take the ETH and buy a house. It's a good call, Johnny.
That's valid. That is valid. That's what when someone comes to buy my gallery for 700 ETH, I can buy another house because that's my plan. I already have a house. I'll buy another house
Mm-hmm.
in a nicer weathered area than where my current house is.
Right. I'll take the smaller house with my 650 ETH. Is that what I said I'd do?
You
650.
can like live down the street from me. You can be like that bum that lives down the street that we make fun of.
Because I only sold my gallery for 650
Exactly.
ETH. Yeah.
Exactly.
The loser who got out early.
And like Zuraw will drive his like yacht down the middle of the road and like just pull it in and like just park it in between both our houses and say he owns both of them.
Yeah. We have to cut this short a little bit today. Apologize for that. The reason we were starting earlier today was because of me, and we're ending now at the time we were supposed to end. Apologies to everybody who came in when we were supposed to start, but I will promise that the issues that we encountered will not be encountered again. So also apologies to the manager whose gallery we were going to review today. We're going to do it next week. Yeah. So we have gotten a good number submitted to us. Please keep them coming if you want us to look at them, because we're happy to do them. So we'll do that one next week. And if you guys wouldn't mind liking the video, if you've joined us in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated, as well as anybody who's watching the replay of it. And if you're watching the replay, then you didn't know that we were late, so don't even worry about that. Jared Jackson asking me if I'm pre-gaming for Nova. I do have to get my face paint ready sometime tonight for the Final Four, but yes. So thank you everyone for joining us. Sean and I will be back next week, so we'll see you then.